Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. I got my trusty little sidekick here. Just kidding, she's not trusty and she's not helping, so I don't think she counts as a sidekick. I've been doing quite a few videos where I take notes in GoodNotes. I've been getting a lot of questions on how I do that, how it works, and how I make my notes the way they are. So that's what we're gonna go through today. I have been taking notes in GoodNotes for about a bit over 2 months now, I think. And because of that, I've kind of developed a style, which we are going to talk about later in this video. I'm definitely no expert, but these are just some tips I want to share and some things I've learned along the way. So let's get into everything, the nitty-gritty, the everything. So the first thing we're going to talk about is that it's important to develop a system. As I said before, I have developed a system, and why this is so important is because this is what makes it so cohesive and also easier and just clarity in your notes, which is a really big factor in what makes them effective. So how do you develop a system? I think it's a bit different depending on the subject, so you need to take that into consideration, and also things that are important for you, for the notes to be clear and for it to feel like fun and not a chore. Honestly, it's just a lot about trial and error, seeing what works for you and what you like, what you don't like, and just finding out a style. I have now found out a style that I enjoy, but that might change in a month's time, we don't know. The important thing is don't make it overly complicated. If you do, then it will be a pain to keep up with. Here is my system that I have now developed and now come to really like and enjoy. First, I do a big header in one color, and then I do small relevant subheaders in another color. Then I do like the small text in one color, and for my bullets I use a lot of bullets, and for them I do first points and then I do like dashes, and then lastly I do some lines and also white accents to make it more cohesive and cute. I've tried a bunch of things and this is what seems to work for me and what I enjoy and what I think is pretty. So you need to find something that works for you. And that kind of brings us right into color scheme. This is very important, mostly for like them being aesthetic and cute, but also for effectiveness. Let me tell you why. So why color scheme matters is that it makes it very clear and easy to find the right information and know where everything is. For example, my subheaders are a certain color, then I know that color is always a subheader. It also makes it cohesive, so it's the same on every page and it just looks good. How to come up with a color scheme? I had a lot of trouble with this. I did a few color schemes before I actually did the one I do now. You're just gonna find your own basically, but you can always look on Pinterest, like search up GoodNotes color scheme or cute note-taking color scheme or something like that. You can also have a look on studygrams and study YouTubers and see what they use, and if there's something that really tickles your fancy, then you can try that out. You can always do colors or combos you like. For example, I'm a big fan of green. You could do like different shades of green. Lastly, just test some out. It's okay to change and it's okay to find your way. So just trial and error, see what works for you, and yeah, honestly, as long as you like it, then you're all set. Add the colors as favorites. How you do that is you go into GoodNotes and you press one of the colors up here, then custom, and then you can either do like the color wheel or a select color in these presets, and also you can write a hex code, and then you just press add to presets, and if you go into presets, they're right here. And also remember that you need to do this both for highlighters and for the regular pen. Going into my color scheme, I'm just gonna touch a bit on it. So I use white paper. We're gonna talk a bit more about paper later. Then I use a light blue for my big header, a yellow for my subheaders, and black for my text, and that makes it really easy to read, since it's on white paper. And then for my highlighters, I use the Stabilo highlighter set, like the pastel ones. I'll use it to pick here of what they are. I think I found them on Pinterest or something. They are also color coded, so I use different colors for different things. So the blue I use for something that I want to highlight that is extra important. And the purple I use for different types of medicines that I write in my notes, since I'm a nursing major. This also changes for every person. You don't need to do this. Alright, let's get into pen and paper settings a bit. I talked about that I had white paper, and I'm gonna talk a bit more about my settings and also different kinds of pen and paper. But firstly, I just want to touch on why it's so important. Your settings will obviously change how your notes look. Not only like the color and everything, but like the settings for the pen and the type of paper you use will impact your notes a lot. So to just quickly go through all the different kinds of choices there's a lot of them. So for paper, there's obviously dotted, gridded, line and blank. There's also white, yellow and black. For pens, there is fountain, ballpoint and brush. So fountain is slightly pressure sensitive, and what that means is that if you press harder with your Apple Pencil, then it will appear thicker, and if you press lighter, it will appear thinner. So fountain is slightly pressure sensitive. Ballpoint is like a regular ballpoint pen, not pressure sensitive. It won't be thicker if you press harder. And then the brush pen is very pressure sensitive, and that's what you use to do like calligraphy and everything, and that is very difficult if you haven't done it before, but it can add a cool effect. But I wouldn't recommend that for like writing just regular text. Then you can obviously choose the size and the color and everything, and you can also do like handwriting settings where you change how you like to like hold your hand on the iPad while you write for it to be as accurate as possible. I just want to touch on that there's also things you can import into GoodNotes. So there's templates, which are basically just different kinds of paper. It can be diagrams, other colors, different systems, and just a lot of customizable things. And there's also hyperlinked notebooks, and what that means is that when you press on something on the page, that is actually a link to another page. Etsy is amazing, but you can also search on Google for different GoodNotes templates and stuff like that. But just using the regular settings work just as well. I do recommend gridded paper, and everyone says this, but it's honestly just easier for handwriting and getting things even. Don't do like the blank paper or something that will just, your handwriting will not look good most likely. As for pen, I would recommend not the brush pen. You can use any of the other ones, like the fountain pen or the ball pen, but not the brush pen for writing. It's really hard to control and it won't look that good, honestly. So I'll quickly just touch on my settings. For paper, I use the original white grid paper. I tried black for a while, didn't really like it, so I changed to white again. I use the fountain pen, and I use different sizes for everything. For text, I use 0.3 millimeters. For subheaders, I use 0.65 millimeters, and for the headers, I think I use 1.5 millimeter. Next one is just a short one. It's some tips for practicing handwriting, because obviously handwriting is a big part in the notes looking neat. Firstly, just remember, practice makes perfect. You won't be amazing the first time you try, because it's really hard to write on an iPad if you haven't done that before. Don't get discouraged to take notes just because your handwriting isn't the best. It still looks good if you nail the color scheme and everything and you're just starting out, so it's okay. You will get better with handwriting. It's fine. Next thing is to optimize tools. So for example, to have your iPad as an incline. Some people like it flat, but I really like it on an incline. And then this kind of trifold case can help. Otherwise, just prop it up with a book or something. It works just as well. It can also help to have an Apple Pencil grip to get a bit more control of your pencil. You can also use like a matte screen protector or an Apple Pencil tip to reduce the friction, and therefore it won't be as slippery and you won't just like slip all around the place with a pencil. Then just make sure your pen settings are good and that the handwriting setting is correct. Gridded paper usually helps, as I said, so try that out if you haven't already. And if you really want to practice and you're really struggling with handwriting, then there are practice sheets online, either that you can download for free off Google or buy on Etsy, and that's both available for like regular lettering and also for calligraphy if you want to practice that. Next up, we're gonna talk about creative accents, and this is a big one, so just keep with me. I will talk all about creative accents and how you can use them, what kinds there are, and everything. So firstly, how to come up with them. Look at studygramms, study YouTubers, see what they use, see what you like, see what you don't like. Also look at Pinterest. Pinterest has so many things and so many good things. Just as with everything, trial and error, try a few out, see if you like them, see if they feel nice to do and if you enjoy them and if they look good. So I've included 4 different kinds of creative accents and I'll go through them one by one. Firstly, there's pictures. It can be both like as a creative accent, as some cute thing in the corner, or as to add clarity. For example, if you're studying medicine, as I do a bit, adding a photo of what you're talking about and maybe drawing some arrows and everything, that can be for clarity. You can either draw this yourself, trace a picture you found on the internet, as yours truly likes to do sometimes. If you don't feel like drawing yourself, then you can just import a picture of the internet or take a picture of your book. That's totally fine. Next one is accents. And for me, accents are just something that makes things a bit more interesting. Just like little small things that you can do that don't take like an eternity to do. For example, bubble letters, small just accents like small lines or a heart somewhere or something. Outlines, small doodles, or just anything you feel like, really. I'm sorry I don't have that much good things to say on accents. It's very personal and it can be so many things. So just play around with it and see what you like. Next thing I'm gonna talk about is stickers. Either you can make these yourself or you can buy them on like Etsy or something. Etsy is the holy grail when it comes to this. I just wanna get that out there. So stickers are basically just kind of like drawings or pictures that you can use like you would use stickers in real life. They can either be cute accents. I have a drawing that I made of an anatomical heart that I use in a few of my cardiology notes. It can either be relevant to notes or it can just be cute, honestly. And there's also ones that you can do that are like post-it notes kind of, and then you can put them on your like note-taking paper thing and then you can write on them. The last type of creative accents I want to talk about is fonts. Now, you don't actually need to write everything by hand. You can write things on a keyboard and just type it out. That can be for easiness if you enjoy typing more than you enjoy writing by hand, but it can also be as a creative thing to like do the header in a font instead of handwriting. So you can do text in GoodNotes. There are a few fonts, but it's quite limited from what I've heard. I don't personally use that much font, but you can also do it in another app and then just import it as a PNG into GoodNotes. So just quickly what I do for my creative accent. Since I study a lot of medical things, I do quite a few pictures. Usually I draw these in Procreate and then just export them as a PNG picture and import them into GoodNotes. And for this, I make sure to not use colors that stand out too much from my color scheme. For accents, I just do these like blue lines by the headers and also these white accents in the headers. Like something important, I just do it in another part of the notes and draw like a little box around it or something. But yeah, that is what I do for creative accents. Let's go into a bit what to include in your notes, and this is more of the effectiveness part than the cute part. So I'd say include things that are vital to the subject. Obviously, don't include every word from the book or the lecture. That is gonna take ages for you to write down every word that they say in the lecture, and also for every subject they will be pages long and you won't be able to find important information as quickly. Yeah, I say that bullet points are your best friends when it comes to like getting a lot of information in a small space, and they also make it easier to navigate your notes. I do a lot of bullet points when it comes to like symptoms and different kinds of treatments and stuff like that, but obviously it is depending on the subject. Just like have a thinker about what would work for you with your subject. And it's also about personal preference. Some like a lot of info in their notes and some don't. Try to do something to get a feel for it. If you don't already know how you feel about notes, you will soon know what you need to include and what you don't. I have some notes from the beginning of my like note taking in GoodNotes. Like I don't know what they're about because I didn't include enough info, but I wouldn't enjoy having too much to read for every topic either. So it's kind of like a balance act, and you will find it out, I promise. For the last topic of this video is how to organize correctly. The most important thing in this part is that it just needs to make sense for you. It doesn't need to make sense for anyone else but you. As for the order in your notebooks, have an order that works for you, but make it relevant. In my notebook from my last course, we did a few different topics, like medical topics, and it wouldn't make sense if I had all the topics from the cardiology subject like in different places in the notebooks, just scattered everywhere. But instead I have them in the beginning, and then I have this, and then I have this. So that way it makes sense for me and it's a relevant order. If you have flashcards, there's a few different ways to organize those. Either you can have the flashcards that are relevant to the topic, or even just like a page after that topic or page. Or you can have all the flashcards at the very end of the notebook to keep things more clean. Or maybe if you want to, you can have all your flashcards in an entirely different notebook and you won't even be bothered with them in your note-taking notebook. Another thing that can be helpful is to write summaries. So for example, I had 5 different cardiac diseases and they had a page each in like my note-taking. Then I summarized them on 1 page, and that one is the start of my cardiology part of my notebook, if that makes sense. You can also use the bookmarks either for important pages, for the summaries in the beginning of every topic, or maybe if you want to, if you use flashcards, you can bookmark every page but the flashcards, and that way you go into like the favorites tab on GoodNotes. That way you only see all the notes pages and not the flashcards. For the last important tip, have relevant titles. Like, I cannot stress this enough. Make good titles, because that is what is most visible when like all the little thumbnails are shown. Then you can just quickly like scroll through and see, oh, there is diabetes type 1, or there is anemia, or there is whatever. And that way you won't have to scroll through everything to find the right one. Alright, just to recap about everything I've talked about developing a system, a color scheme, the pen and paper settings, how to practice your handwriting, creative accents, what to include in your notes, and how to organize your notes. The most important thing to take away from this, you will learn. It just takes practice and practice and practice. Just as everything else, it takes practice. You won't be good at it from the start. A lot of this is about personal preference and what you found good, what you don't like, and everything. It's about trial and error to see what you enjoy. Try to find something that works for you. That's literally the most important thing. That is it for this video. So thank you so much for watching and supporting my channel. If you want to see a bit more of my note taking, I have a few videos where I take notes, so you can go check them out. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and comment, and yeah, please do not break me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.